This is
RedPubPod.
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 RedPubPod, a podcast
RedPubPod.
from Redhawk Publications.
RedPubPod.
RedPubPod.
Welcome to RedPubPod. I'm Richard Eller. My editor-in-chief refers to me every morning as the boss man, so I guess I'll own that one.
Yeah, the boss man.
And with Robert Knipe, who
Hello.
is the editor-in-chief, and the person who really runs the place, our acquisitions editor, Patty Thompson.
I'll own that.
Okay?
Oh, good.
For this morning,
Good, because
anyway.
I got a brand new list of things for you to do the rest of the day. So I've been waiting for you to say that.
And it's due to their success we can claim that we are in the top 3 of the recent Catawba Valley poll held by the Hickory Daily Record. So we want to thank all
10?
10, 3, 5,
12.
8, 6 listeners that we have out there today. We have a very special guest with us in the studio here at Catawba Valley Community College with the Winging It podcast, because we're doing a double exposure here. We were just on the Winging It podcast, which is the official CVCC podcast with Cassidy Collins, and now she is joining us as our author. So welcome, Cassidy Collins, to RedPubPod.
The
Hi.
official Redhawk Publications podcast.
There you
Official.
go.
I'm a guest on the official Redhawk
Yes.
Publications podcast. Thank you for having me today.
Now, you are an author, but you're also a part of Redhawk Communications. That's your day job.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Oh my goodness. Well, we have a terrific team at Redhawk Communications. I am, I guess, fully myself as the writer of Redhawk Communications. So I am the lead writer and editor for the magazine, SOAR Magazine, that just came out this year.
Called SOAR.
SOAR Magazine,
Yes.
yes. I write, just day to day, any materials that come in for social media or for producing little vlogs or social highlights. I usually write the content for that. I'm in charge of doing the interviews. So I get to meet a lot of people and have a lot of fun. That's what I went to college for. I have a communication studies degree, master's in integrated marketing communication, and then a BFA in creative writing. So it's really been a terrific place to be able to do what I love and meet new people and meet students and meet faculty, people of all ages, people here for all different reasons, and get to learn their stories. And then I get to share those stories with the college and beyond. So really, it's been a terrific fit.
Can I share? This is one of the first people I've ever met who's actually using her degree.
I was about to say, and she did all of that before she was 24 years old, right?
She's got the bachelor's, 2 bachelor's, and master's, and she's doing what she studied for. So God bless. Good for you.
Thanks. Yeah. And I give credit back again to CVCC because I did the Career and College Promise program when I was a high school student. And it's because I got some credit hours with that Career and College Promise program that I was able to get 2 bachelors in 4 years. So
Yeah, because there's a lot of BFAs loading groceries at Publix right now. I know that for a fact.
But, she gets to use her writing skills not only as an author here, but it sounds like in everything you do.
yes.
That's
And
great.
It's great that I don't get tired of writing yet. Like, usually I think, I'm going to get burnt out. Like when I was in undergrad and all of the writing assignments that we had to do for, 3 to 4 classes at a time. Oh my goodness. I was like, can I actually be like a full-time writer? Because this is exhausting. But
Tougher than it looks,
yes,
right?
but no, I do enjoy talking with people at the college and learning about different programs, and I feel like I'm still learning, which I guess you're supposed to do, but it's been a lot of fun.
Whole variety of subject matter out there.
Yes.
Do you find yourself proofing and revising your colleagues' work before it goes out?
That
Do you-
actually, no, that actually is part of my position.
Ah, fantastic.
I proofread, so
She's supposed to give criticism.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than something going out with a typo in it or something
right,
like that.
yeah.
some people have told me I should be a teacher. I feel like I could never really be a teacher personally, just because I don't know. I feel like sometimes I have different learning strategies like that I come up with and memorization techniques that are a little bit different. So, but proofing and critiquing writing, I can do that pretty easily.
That's why I'm an editor, is because I'm a much better editor than I am a writer, because I'm too lazy to be a writer. Like Richard can actually sit down and put his behind in the chair and put out chapters, and I'm going, I want to know what's going on in that book over there, so I'd much rather read it than write it.
But aren't, as an editor, you a teacher too? I mean, because you're teaching me where to put my commas and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And you're teaching your colleagues better writing because the next time they won't make that mistake. I've tried to learn from that.
Yeah, because if you can get the person that you're proofing to look at what you've done, oftentimes it becomes second nature to them, to where when their first drafts come out, they will be better than, the second draft or, whatever. So it's like driving a car, it becomes second nature to you, that writing.
And we do collaborative writing here. For example, maybe at any one time, Richard will start off with a memo or an article, and he'll forward it to me, and then I'll update, edit, modify, add my spin on it, and then we ultimately give it to Robert, because he is the editor. So
to make us all sound like we know what we're talking about.
He'll shine it really nice. So it's nice to be able to collaborate with people that are strong writers.
Right.
I just know a lot of verbs. That's
right.
all.
Well, and at Redhawk Communications, we're a little bit of the same way, too, of very collaborative. Where there's a graphic designer. So she designed all of the elements of the SOAR magazine. I wrote it, but she designed everything, all of the infographics, the layout,
Nice.
the text font, everything, the typography.
Who is this?
This is Carly Charles.
Okay.
Wonderful designer. And then we also have a social media specialist, Ashley Holt. We have our print shop leader, Jonathan Lale. We have our brand guide and our brand overseer, Doreen Hendricks. We have the leader of the entire group, Jennifer Cobb. She does a fantastic job of putting us together and really making it collaborative. And then we have our project manager, Taylor Willis. And then I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anyone. But yeah, so it's a great team, and we all play, very important roles in our areas. And so, yeah, it's I really enjoy working here.
It sounds like it takes a village to sell a college.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because they're putting out all the information of why it's a good deal to come to Catawba Valley Community College, and why it's good to do your 2 years here or get your certification here and things like that. So that's great. You got a good team to do that.
Mm-hmm. And then, did I mention social media?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
Miss Holt. Yeah,
yes,
she's done some great work for us in the past, pushing stuff on the CVCC Facebook page and Instagram and
and that's mostly where my writing comes in, of just writing. Ashley and I will go back and forth on creative little short blurbs that'll go underneath for social posts and that sort of thing. So we get to create a lot together, which is fun.
Maybe you've got a poetry career in, because if you're taking big blocks of text and boiling it down to a concentrate of just a few lines, that's what poets do.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And who is the audience for SOAR? Is it the community? Is
the
it
community,
alum?
it's community alum. We have a section for all of the teaching and learning programs. We have diversity and engagement. We have things for students. We have things for faculty staff. We have content for the community. So really, it's just an audience, as large as possible. We're trying. I don't want to say the audience is everyone, but it kind of is catered toward whoever's interested in higher learning and the college and learning about our partnerships with the community.
And it's an old-fashioned, traditionally printed magazine as well as an online version.
Yes,
right?
It's interactive.
Where can the listeners find SOAR magazine in the area?
So you can contact Redhawk Communications directly for inquiries to receive the magazine, but once you get the magazine, there is you can scan a QR code, and then that will pull up the digital issue. And that is the name of the online website that we use. It's called Issue.
Hey, boss man, that sounds like something we should be in next issue. We can get some people out there that want to come tell us their stories.
I think we should, yeah.
There you go.
As an initiative of CVCC, we fit.
And if you want to give me a stack of them, I can leave them in various doctor's offices, because at my age, I spend most of my time when I'm not at work in a doctor's office. So I can just leave them on the tables there. So.
And I do have an issue of it on my the conference room in my office.
Perfect.
So when people come in, they see it. So and I have extra copies of it. So it's wonderfully laid out, by the way, and the articles are seamless to read. So kudos.
Well, thank you.
With all that work you're doing, it sounds like you wouldn't have any time to come up with a novel, and yet you have. How did that work?
Because you've been writing since you were age.
Since I could pick up a pencil, honestly. So I guess I've always been a very multitasking artistic person. I grew up when I wasn't in school, I was doing theater. When I wasn't doing theater, I was doing church band. When I wasn't doing church band, I was doing chorus. When I wasn't doing chorus, I was volunteering at the American Heart Association. So, and I did some other volunteer work for a camp too. So, I really enjoy creating and making, and I don't really know. I wrote during high school. I wrote this first book that we're talking about today actually during high school. I probably stayed up way too late for the average high school student to get that done on top of my classes and sports and that sort of thing. But it's just something that when I start writing, I really just get a new source of energy and a new source of excitement. So I just keep on, I guess.
It's not at all daunting then that 200 plus pages, you've got that under your belt to do, or you're looking at it going, can I write a novel? I mean, that's a pretty daunting task to a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's something, I guess, where it's just like a personal gift that I have a little bit, because I didn't realize until I went to school how many people enjoy writing or don't like it at all. And it's, a very daunting task, whereas to me it's the one thing that's always come easy to me. And so I don't really have, when I start, I don't really have like a set page count that I'm aiming for. I kind of just see where the story goes. And I probably, this is probably not great advice for writers out there, I don't really do an outline. I just I can visualize and I can kind of see where the story goes, and I'll write scene by scene, and then I'll find ways for the scenes and the chapters to connect. And then if they don't necessarily connect, maybe I'm like, oh, maybe that's not the best fit, or maybe I need to go a different direction and explore something there. But I just sit at my laptop and just write, and it just comes.
Were you able to continue writing this while you were in college? Because I heard you say that you started this in high school. Mind you, now you're getting your bachelor's and you are doing writing for your classrooms. Did you use your background for Aria for any writing assignments, or improve it and tweak it during your college years?
I did. So I actually... the Aria is a trilogy. There are 2 other books, and I finished them all before I graduated high school. And
Whoa!
and so I was actually able to use the excerpt of the last book in this trilogy. I submitted it to a scholarship contest in Catawba County and received the scholarship for that excerpt. So that was very encouraging, of course, and then used that scholarship to help fund my time at UNC Wilmington. And yes, I most definitely did pull some material from these books for some creative writing assignments that first few years, just to, I didn't copy and use it again and again in different classes, because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to create original content for each class. But I did pull some of this content from there.
Okay. And that makes sense, because now knowing that you have all 3 written, and you started it in high school, and you are a young person but a mature author, and I want to clarify that because I find you to be very... very proficient in your writing for somebody of young age, but you've been writing forever, so it makes perfect sense. So when it was time for you to kind of wrap up the manuscript that we received for the Aria, available on RedhawkPublications.com or by the author.
Cue the sales pitch.
Yeah.
Yep, sold a couple this morning. Just wrapped them up and shipped them out.
It's just a matter of now you kind of look it over with your older eyes, and you tweak it,
Yes.
and then we give you notes.
Yes.
And you get to fine-tune it a little bit more.
Yes.
So that's kind of what's happening for book 2, because I just finished this book 1, and I'm like, I need the next book.
Do you think of an overarching plot that, characters are going to start here and they're going to go here and here? Do you have an idea of what conflicts that they're going to, or are you one of those writers that is so lucky, because I'm not one of those writers, that lets the characters lead the writer? Because I'm one that my characters don't lead me anywhere. I have to lead them. They're like chess pieces that I have to move. But I have talked to dozens of writers whose characters can surprise them, they'll say. And a book will go in a direction that they never intended it to go. Is that where your characters, is that how your characters do?
For someone who does not outline as they should, I do a little bit of, I write down scenes as they come to me, and then I kind of reorganize them. So I do, in a sense, outline them. I wouldn't necessarily say that my characters lead me. I think I definitely lead the characters. But I do have the plot surprises me. I don't necessarily go into a novel thinking, I have an ending and a beginning and kind of where I want it to go. But as far as overall themes take place, for example, this is called the Aria, so it's about music. I found myself coincidentally finding a few little phrases and lyrics from other songs that I was hearing at that time when I wrote it back in 2014 originally. And I was like, oh my goodness, what if I just start lacing like song lyrics that could also be used as phrases, that people would pick up on if they knew the song, but they don't necessarily need to be straight outright. And
kind of an Easter egg.
Right. And so then I found myself writing about different little objects and different little gestures that characters would make again and again. And I was like, oh, I think like a theme is coming here. So if you read the Aria, she'll talk a lot about this cream ribbon that she has. And it's originally it wasn't supposed to be anything special. But in the second and third book, without giving anything away, it becomes a very, very important piece in basically solving this giant plot hole that comes, or giant plot change that comes. So knowing that it was supposed to be a book about music and a book about singing and playing instruments and dancing and that sort of art, I did try to put themes that I knew growing up in theater, growing up in chorus, and that sort of phrasing and those sort of things that were special to me. I say it's a mix of reality and fiction because it is all fiction, but it also was inspired by some real events. So I tried to put those in there where I could.
So the competition aspect that you've got in the book is like, what is that? Is that an exacerbation of the way competition feels in the real world when you're competing for a role, or you're competing for a part in the chorus?
Yes.
Is that where that comes from?
That's kind of where it comes from. Also, it was because I wanted to make a dystopian theme. I love dystopian themes. When The Hunger Games was filmed in Hickory back in 2012, and I did not find out that it was filmed in Hickory until, the Hickory area until
down at the Henry River Mill Village.
Yes, exactly.
District 12.
Until I did not find out about that until one kid came to my high school one day and was like, "Oh, I got to be an extra in that," and I've always loved film, and I was like, "Well, my goodness." What? I didn't get a letter in my mailbox, and like little Cassidy was so like, oh, I can't believe I missed out, and so then I was like, okay, maybe I can, if I can't be a part of that, maybe I can make something for myself, and so that's a little bit of where the inspiration came to, and so I was like, if I have to have a dystopian kind of one world government theme, I need a very big competition prize, something that drives the characters. So that's where the competition aspect came from.
Yeah, that's another question that I have too, is what is your inspiration? What have you read growing up? What authors have you read that have informed you in your work?
So I'm going to be quite honest.
Please.
I don't really read. I don't really like to read. For a writer, I get a lot. They're like, oh my goodness. People say, oh my goodness. So I read... growing up, I read what I needed to for high school and for work, and for college. But I love stories and I love film but I love literature. But I don't know. I just don't read. I could not tell you the last book that I read. I couldn't, like, all the way through.
So Hunger Games series,
I didn't read it.
Didn't read in that?
Mm-mm.
What about
read it.
Harry Potter? Did you see the movies?
I did.
Okay.
I tried to read Harry Potter. I didn't read Harry Potter growing up.
Well, you are very blessed in a natural talent because of your use of grammar. The fact that your book is dialogue led.
Dialogue.
Yeah, which means that it's a lot of show instead of tell. Yeah. You get so many books that are just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of exposition, and you get tired of being told when you really want to be shown. Mm-hmm. Now, the characters in your book, in the Aria, show us things by conversing, by talking, and you handle that very well for someone who's not read something that portrays that. Also, too, all books are about Joseph Campbell's adventure of the protagonist with an antagonist. I mean, it goes all the way back to Homer. It goes back to the Odyssey. It goes back to Gilgamesh. We see it in Star Wars. We see it in Harry Potter. You've got the same thing going on here. There's an adventure. There's a protagonist. But Patty and I were just talking this morning, and I'm going to let her continue with this, about your protagonist.
Well, keep in mind, there are times when I want to kick her in the butt. Carson drives me crazy. Mm-hmm. But it's because, it's a book, but I'm totally invested in it. I'm totally reading it. And I'm like, what are you thinking, girl? Let me slap you over here. She's a teenage girl. It shouldn't surprise me that she's going to be in pain. Okay? She's going through those angst. She's going through relationship issues. She's totally into her own world. But she is loving and caring to her family. So, I guess we can say that I'm invested in the book. I'm invested in the character that sometimes I want to slap. That's about all I can say.
Good. Good.
And see, that's another thing that's amazing. You just sit here and say that you don't read widely, because today a very popular trope in especially young adult novels are unlikable protagonists. Protagonists that you really have to struggle to care about them. But the thing about it is what these people have done with these unlikable protagonists is, as they go through their tortures, as they go through their retribution to regenerate into a better person by the end of the novel or the end of the series, you've done that without it being shown. Was that, being taught to you, was that something that came from just the character? Have you known someone like her that, you just want to take them and shake them and go, stop being so self-destructive to your own, your own needs?
Yeah. So originally when I wrote it, and I wrote Carson's character, I think that she was subconsciously like a mix of a bunch of character types, I guess, or character types I had seen in books that I had read. But you're right. She's a teenager, and I think she's supposed to be a little self-absorbed and a little naive because she's in this world and all she's known is, power plays and people taking advantage of other people, and hasn't really had exposure to some of the real world life experiences that you would have if you weren't under, control of a dystopian government. So, I think that as I was developing her, and then I was reading it again and developing it again, I realized I was like, she may be a little annoying. She may be a little like, what are you thinking? But as the story develops and as the next books come, I think you'll see some of the reasons why she is how she is, and also really kind of cheer her on because of the person that she becomes.
And I had not thought until you just said it that the fact that she has grown up under an authoritarian government would mean that a lot of her thinking has been done for her.
Exactly.
Because that's what authoritarian governments are for.
Exactly.
Is to, push the national pride and keep the people from having to think for themselves. The nation thinks for you to where you don't have to. So when she is faced with things that she has to think through on her own, she oftentimes has trouble.
There's a lot of fear.
Yes.
That's what's going on.
Authoritarian governments.
These are all teenagers. Teenagers that want to party and have a good time, but they also know that the soldiers at any moment can do terrible things to them. So, yeah, that's and again, that's my old eyes looking at it. It's like, hey, you guys, stop doing this. You're going to get in trouble. And,
Well, not that you're annoying, but is there any of you in that character?
I think that, not really. I think that I used to think that there was a little bit of me in that character, but I think that some of the ways that some of the things that she experiences in the plot, as far as competitions and feeling, a little unimportant, but also like trying to navigate her self-worth and that sort of thing. I think that we all kind of go through that at some point, but also just as someone who was in arts, I think I wrote it with a vision in mind of what I had experienced, but then as the story progressed, I was like, maybe I hope I'm not quite like this. So I didn't really write her as anything to do with anyone I knew. None of the main characters. Not really anyone, especially in this, are based off of people that I know. But I definitely, I am a writer, so I do draw on some conversations that I have with people, or like listening in the coffee shop to different conversations going around. I think that's where a lot of the dialogue comes from.
Didn't we hear that the other day from Scott Owens?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting ready to say. And the fact that when in the early 2000s, when I was at my most prolific writing, I used to go sit around in bars and listen to drunk people talk and tell stories, and then I would take those home and turn them into short stories that I would sell to local magazines and things like that. So
no one is safe.
Yeah,
No conversation.
Well, if you talk too loud about your personal life, I can't help that I'm going to turn it into a short story, and or that Cassidy's going to turn it into something.
Some writer somewhere is listening.
That's right. That's right.
Well, you're quite a few years from this story if you wrote it in high school. So what are you working on these days?
So I have another screenplay that I wrote that I...
Notice she says another.
Well, a few.
How many are we talking about here?
One full one, and then a couple TV episodes, and then another half one that I keep trying to go back to and then can't start, and then all that. So I have a screenplay that I wrote my senior year of high school. I turned it into a competition in LA, and it got like a 6 out of 10. So I was like, on most, it ranked 6 out of 10 on most things, mostly, or 5 out of 10. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do some screenwriting. So I took a few screenwriting classes in college. I actually went overseas and studied abroad at the University of Stirling and took a screenwriting class from a retired BBC writer. So that was really cool to take a screenwriting class from. But and then I have another book that's a lot more sci-fi called Floor Number 9, and it is about it's about chimerism. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about that. It's about a hospital, a fictional hospital that has something called chimerism, which is something that is actually currently happening in technology, where they take pig DNA and pig embryos and use some of that to splice it with human DNA so that they can create like human aortas or human organs used in transplants. So I was kind of like what if the chimera, the pig part, was actually more human than not, and someone who found the hospital and had to receive an organ donation found that out, and it's about these chimeras that live on floor 9 of this hospital, and one of the girls finds out that the organ that she received is from these more human than animal creatures, and she's like, oh my goodness, what are the ethics of that? So it explores ethics and it explores ethics and science and all of that.
Yeah, it goes back to Robin Cook's book Coma, where they used to keep dozens and dozens of people in comas in the state, and then they would harvest organs from them for wealthy people to have kidney transplants, heart and lung transplants, things like that. So that kind of nefariousness with the medical and the scientific field, And chimeras, I think, is that Greek?
It is Greek.
Yeah, that's Greek mythology. Yeah, so, and I can't remember exactly what their powers were or what their...
I can't either.
Seemed like it was a power of transformation or something like that.
It was some sort of creature that's able to, I don't know, some super power.
Those of you out there listening, before you go to RedhawkPublications.com and buy the Aria on sale for $17 while supplies last, Google the chimera and then send us an email once you've heard this.
Please let me know.
Teach us what it is.
What have I written about? I don't know.
Because we don't want you listening to dead air while we sit here and Google.
Participate in the learning. Help us along with this, and it'll help you with the book as well.
I really wish this were live sometime where we could just have Joe out there.
See the live stream going on.
Have a phone ring over here.
Yeah. I have a question that we have occasionally asked some of our other writers, and given your background and youth, when did you feel that you arrived as a writer?
When did I feel that I arrived?
As an author, as a writer?
Probably, honestly, when I finished the last book of this series called The Cacophony. I knew, it probably needed a lot of eyes to edit, and the whole series probably needed to be rewritten eventually. But I had written 300-page books. I was like, I think I can justify going to school for a BFA. And I really do think that I think that if you work really, really hard and really want to write and put your mind to it, you can create a work of art with words. And I do think, though, that I do have I must, because, like I said, I don't really read. I read growing up what I could. I think most of what I've ever read is the Bible. So, I don't think I've really read a lot of literature recently that's especially dystopian. And I think that's something that I kind of challenge myself with, because I was like, everyone tells me I'm the writer that doesn't read. I was like, let's see how long I can keep this up. Let's see if I can get published being the writer that doesn't read. And it's not that I don't enjoy other people's writing, and it's not that I don't enjoy stories. I think it's just I don't really have the patience. I'd rather be, like you said at the beginning, you would rather be reading the story. Yeah. I would rather be creating. I would rather be doing something with the words. And
I'll tell you, there is one thing you're avoiding by doing that. You're avoiding something called Tolstoy syndrome. Tolstoy syndrome is when a writer writes something and reads it, and it could be the most wonderful thing in the world, but they'll think to themselves, it's not Tolstoy, because Tolstoy was the one that wrote the beautiful stuff, and so they suffer from this, my writing's not good enough, and oftentimes it leads to a block or it leads to somebody quitting. One of the reasons why I quit was because I couldn't sell anything. The markets were all looking for other types of authors who had not had the opportunity to be published in the last, 150 years. So, when it came down to my story and, a lady from Laos or a lady from Nigeria, the lady from Nigeria's story would get published. And I kind of went, that's okay. I think I can live with that. Because, again, I get to read other people's writing. I read your book and gave you markup, and you wonderfully went back to the drawing board, cut what was needed to be cut, tightened up what needed to be tightened up, that shows that you're a real writer right there, if nothing else.
And, there are a lot of other artists, and I'm thinking about, like, recording artists, comedians, talk show hosts, that don't like to hear other artists. Comedians don't want to hear other comics. Talk show hosts don't want to see other talk show shows because they don't want to crib. They don't want to reuse other people's tropes and themes.
Yes.
So to me, in a way, I totally understand why you might not want to read someone else's. And I actually have a little bit more respect for what you've done, considering this is all you. This is, you've created a universe that's authentically you, and we know you didn't borrow or crib from anyone else.
Absolutely.
So,
and I
That's neat.
I didn't want to, say, oh my goodness, like everything, I created everything. But it's true. I'm afraid of sometimes having an idea and then reading it and being like, oh gosh, no, I can't do that. Or, seeing a trope or seeing a theme that then I want to pull from, and it's like, gosh, but then I'm taking from someone else's work.
Yeah, this has been done before.
Yeah, and I don't want to take from other people's creativity, and I also don't want to kind of have my dreams taken, by reading something and being like, oh my goodness, I had this idea, now it's taken, now I can't do it.
I had written that. Yeah.
I've had students in English 111 classes, freshman comp classes, say, well, she's doing that subject. And I go, you can do it too, because this student is going to go to it from this perspective, and you're going to probably take it from another perspective. So go ahead. I mean, what you were talking about the chimeras a while ago, it's kind of a trope that is recognizable as far back as the 1970s in Robin Cook's books, but this is going to be your story. It's going to be your twist on it, your perspective on it, and it's going to be very worth reading and very worth doing. So, no writer, whether it's a writer that's well-read or a writer that doesn't read, should ever think that, they're stealing something for somebody else or something like that. You're not.
Yeah. There's not much that hasn't been done already.
Well,
all
it's
we can do
it's
is
all
just
Joseph Campbell's. It's all Joseph Campbell's trip of the hero.
Very
That's
true.
Every single story.
Same story over and over again.
and over again. And how you get popular today is, we've already mentioned the unlikable protagonist, but you do things that will defy the expectations of the reader. You kill off characters that you did not think that the reader won't think you'd kill off. You have them do things that the reader would think. Reader's thinking, here's where she's going to do this and this and this, and then all of a sudden they do the exact opposite. And the readers go, whoa, I never saw that coming. I mean, you see that all in narrative art.
Instead of the red wedding, we're going to have the red concert. I don't know.
Well, see, you talk about the red wedding, but George R.R. Martin has made $130 million off of defying people's expectations when it comes to that kind of fantasy novel. I mean, that's what he did. I mean, he kills off all these characters during this thing called the Red Wedding.
Spoiler.
And we all just went, whoa, no. I mean, I remember when we read it back in the day when it was still just on paper. It was a come back to work, and all the customers are going, dude, did you read this? And I'm going, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to zig when everybody else expects you to zag.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Cacophony as the third of them, but what's the second in the series?
So it's a little bit harder to pronounce. It's called the ritornello. But the ritornello is a musical term where in a musical score, the original melody returns, but it's in a different key. It's in a different theme. So even though it's a harder word to pronounce, I really wanted to keep it because the story returns, but with a different theme and a different key. So.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but is Redhawk Publications going to publish these other two books, or are we?
Are they? Are they up for another? Are they up to edit another one of my novels? Because if they are,
I think we would be interested in.
Okay.
Until Simon and Schuster calls.
Yeah, exactly. Until one of the big four calls, and then we're going to send you to New York.
I need to know what happens.
Yeah, that's what she was complaining about this morning. She's going like, this book is part of a series. I know it now, and I'm going like, yeah.
I'm just saying, hopefully by the end of the second book, you'll think, it'll be a completely different story. I'm just saying, it'll be a completely different story in a good way. In a good way.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's fine.
Well, I
That's
want to
the
learn.
kind of turns you
I
want.
do want to learn more about the regime a little bit, and it's okay if it's not there. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
but-
it's there.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Yeah, because it's like
Good.
it's you touch on it enough to make me incredibly curious. So
Yeah, the
I'm
political
looking forward to
aspect
that.
of it's
Yeah.
cool. I like
Yeah.
that. Yep.
Well, that's great. It builds interest. That's what you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too, when we were looking through our emails with you, Cassidy, we first heard from you, I think it was October 12th of 2021. So, in effect, it was, 12 months, 13 months from our notes, edits back to you doing revisions, coming back to us, and, we go back and forth. That's how it gets done. And you were incredibly dutiful,
Yes.
respectful of timelines. You did your work, and thank you.
Well, thank you all for your hard work in helping this become the book that it is now. And now I get to sell it, and you get to sell it, and see where it goes.
Do you have any appearances scheduled
Yes.
anywhere that you'd like to put out to the...
Yes, so November 28th.
Mark this on your calendars, people, right
Please
now.
do. November 28th, 6 p.m. I will be at the Hickory Public Library for a book signing. So, yeah.
Patrick Beaver. Yep.
Patrick Beaver Library in downtown Hickory, right there off of Highway 127, November 28th at
6 p.m.
6 p.m. You'll have books there that people
Yes,
can
I
pick the
will.
book up and get you to autograph it at the same time. So that's
Ooh, nice little reading from a
Yes.
good.
And if they want to buy it online,
it's at redhawkpublications.com. You just go to that very first page with new releases, and it's right there somewhere with all of our other new releases. It's our newest novel to our family, and we welcome it.
so one last question. Was it harder to write the book in the first place or go through the revisions?
Definitely harder to write it.
Okay.
Because when I, like I said, way back in 2014, had
In this stone age.
yes, a very minimum outline. And I really enjoy the editing process. I think that's something unique to me too, is that I'm like, well, the story is already there. Let's just make it better. Or, new ideas come and I'm like, okay, I can scratch that, cheesy idea and put this in. So I like the editing process. I don't know.
I can remember when I was 24 years old, and 8 years was a long time.
Yeah. Or I can remember at 24, I thought every word I wrote was golden.
Oh,
and
my
I didn't
God,
want
me
anybody
too.
changing it. So
Yeah, when I was 16, I was sending stories to Alfred Hitchcock's magazine in Ellery, Queens, and they would send me these, just instant rejections, and I just got, well, they just don't know how good this is. My mother would go, keep it up, and I'd go like, no, I'm not going to send them anything else because they can't appreciate my genius.
it's all a process.
Yes.
Well, Cassidy Collins, thank you so much for gracing us with your book, because it's turned out marvelously well. It's great to find talent here on campus, and we look forward to the next one, because you've cliff-hung Patty. She's ready for the next one.
And thank you for gracing us with your presence today in these plush-welded studios of Redhawk Publications here at Catawba Valley Community College,
And
the
please-
best community college in America.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to wherever you're hearing this.
And if you want to hear more of the conversation or a version of the conversation, go to Winging It, which they can get by going to...
They can find it on Spotify.
Okay.
And read the Redhawk Report. It's always linked on the Redhawk Report for those of you that are members of Catawba Valley Community College. And, you can find it on Spotify.
Okay. And if you're listening, then you already know how to find RedPubPod. And our last dictate of the day is, can you say that?
RedPubPod.
Wow. She's
Wow.
one of the best ones ever.
She's a natural.
Yeah, that's great.
That communications degree
It's
means
well worth every dollar that was
Yes,
paid
it
to
is.
get it. Yeah.
even the enunciation was paid for there. So
Oh, sure. That was flawless. Yes.
RedPubPod.
there you go.
RedPubPod.
Red Pub Pod. I want everybody to have a good evening or morning or whenever you're listening to this. And RedhawkPublications.com. Buy books. Buy them now for Christmas.
Our not so subliminal pitch.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
You've been listening to another award award-winning edition of
RedPubPod.
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 a podcast
RedPubPod.
from Redhawk Publications.
RedPubPod.
Wow.
Wow.